Ekam aksharam hrudi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahma matram yaham aham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati Hridhi vishamanasa svam chinvata majjata pavanachalanarodha atmanishto Deham mrunmayavat jadatmakam aham buddhirna tasyastyato naham tattata bhava shuddhi samay Siddhatma sadbhavata koham bhavayuta kuto varadhiya drishtatmanishtatmana Soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha vibhati swayam Soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purnam vibhati swayam Namo Ramana
Namo Ramana Nandakumar sir.
Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been commencing the meditations on Sri Dakshinamurthy Stotram. We have had a look at the description of Bhagavan, of how exactly the avataram took place and under what circumstances Adi Shankara, out of compassion for those who cannot derive benefit from the Mauna Upadesham, how he has composed the Dakshinamurthy Stotram and what exactly is a stuti, and how this particular stotram is both a stuti and a Vedanta Grantham. A detailed exposition of the principles or the truths or the tattvam behind Vedanta. It is a rare combination, say most of the commentators, that such depth of Vedantic understanding is placed alongside a stuti in the form of the Guru Sri Dakshinamurthy. We find ourselves in the place where we are beginning, and we have looked a little bit into the Dhyana Shloka, the Dhyana Shloka that is accepted as part of the over so many years of tradition. This particular Dhyana Shloka has been accepted as common to almost all the commentaries on Sri Dakshinamurthy Stotram. So we'll be seeing that, and then we'll be seeing the Dhyana Shlokam given by Bhagavan. The Dhyana Shlokam, the source of which is placed at different authorship, so I am not going into that. But the Dhyana Shlokam itself, the purpose of which is to meditate on the deity being praised. Any Dhyana Shlokam is a meditation, an invocation of the deity or the blessings from the grace of the deity to our enquiries, to our vicharana. And this particular Dhyana Shlokam is consistent with that practice of invoking the grace of Sri Dakshinamurthy. It goes like this. I'll read as we had discussed, I'll read the Sanskrit, but rely on the Tamil version for the explanation. The Tamil translation of the Sanskrit is by Bhagavan Shri Ramana Maharishi. Verse goes like this. O Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam Varsishtante Vasat Rishiganai Avritam Brahmanishtai Acharyendram Karakalita Chinmudram Ananda Murti Swatma Ramam Mudita Vadanam Dakshinamurti Ide. Om Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam Varsishtante Vasat Rishiganai Avritam Brahmanishtai Acharyendram Karakalita Chinmudram Ananda Murtim Swatma Ramam Mudita Vadanam Dakshinamurti Ide. Bhagavan's translation of that goes like this. Maunamam Urayar Katum Maunavyakya Prakatita. Maunamam Murayar Katum Abrahma Vastuvalan Sivanilai Tavarcha Cheeder Seriguru Varansir Kayan Uvagayor Uruvan Tannul Uvapavan Kalimuhattan Avanayam Tenpan Murti Appanai Yetuome. Dakshinamurtim Ide, if we look at it at the beginning, we had seen the tattvam or the truth behind or the truth indicated by the Nama Sri Dakshina Murti. To him, to that Guru Swarupam, who is facing the southern direction and who transcends death, because the south is said to be the direction which is governed by Yama, the god of renewal or the god of ending of the previous forms. And only the Guru who faces the death is able to take us beyond. And we had seen Bhagavan's experience, enlightenment experience, also is by facing the fear of death. Then we come to Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattva. Usually the commentators go by saying that Maunam is the normal walk Maunam. So the reliance is on Chinmudra, that the teaching by the Guru Dakshinamurthy is through the Chinmudra in the hand. Whereas having come through the Bhagavan's teachings and the experience in Atma Vicharam, we understand that Maunam is the most powerful Diksha, and it is not the mere Vak Maunam. And we saw the example of Tatvarayar and Swarupanand, the teachers from the Madhva tradition, where Tatvarayar is the student and Swarupanand is the Guru. Tatvaraya has written a Bharani. This is in talk number 262. Bhagavan has referred to this, where Bhagavan says Tatvarayar has written a Bharani. A Bharani is a form of versification which glorifies only that kind of warrior who has slayed 1,000 elephants or more. If you go back in history, the Indian armies were determined by the strength of the elephants. The number of elephants they had, it is said, many centuries went by where this strength was enough. Then the opposition is supposed to have developed techniques against the elephant armies. But then primarily in those centuries, far beyond where this capacity to defeat elephants could have come, slaying elephants was the metric, was the earmarking or the indication of the greatness of a warrior. And the Bharani would be written only for a warrior who has slayed 1,000 elephants or more. So when this Bharani is presented in the Sabha, in the hall of the king, the other poets and the other members of that Sabha, of that hall, they say that this is not acceptable, that you have written a Bharani on somebody who is sitting quietly by the forest. You call him Swarupanand, and you have written a Bharani which is to be only to glorify a great warrior who has slayed 1,000 elephants or more. And Tatvarayar invites the whole assembly to come and be with his Guru. He says, you come and be with him, and then you say whether a Bharani can be addressed to my Guru or not. And the whole entourage, the whole assembly goes to the Guru, who is outside the city, and the Guru is in Mauna. The Guru is in Maunam. The I principle itself is in Maunam. The Tattvam, the Ahankara Tattvam itself is in Maunam. The first rise of the I in consciousness is abiding in the source. And all the entourage, they all become still. All the thoughts that they have had become quiet. 2 days pass by. And the Guru, Swarupanand, moves his mind, and the whole entourage also comes out from the Manomaunam, from the Ahankara Maunam. And as one voice, they all agree that Swarupanand is more than deserving of a Bharani, because it is so easy to find someone who has slayed 1,000 elephants, but it is so difficult to find one who can slay the egos or keep them in abeyance, that to 200 of them in one go. It is more difficult to slay one ego than 1,000 elephants. Therefore, he is definitely worthy of being praised with the Bharani. And we also recall that it is the experience of many devotees who come to Bhagavan's Sannidhi, that they would have come with lot of doubts, lot of questions to be asked from Bhagavan. And in his Mauna Sannidhi, all the questions will vanish. And we also took up the example of Krishnamurthy Iyer, N.R. Krishnamurthy Iyer, who was already practicing the japa of Ramanama like a Sudarshana Chakra, as Bhagavan had taught him. But he says a time comes when, whenever he would come inside the ashram, the japa would stop. He would no more be able to chant the name, as the division between the subject and the object would vanish. Now, therefore, that is Maunam Vyakya. It is not mere the Maunam of the mouth. It is a power which Bhagavan says, if speech can affect change, then Maunam is the great grandfather of speech. How it is great grandfather? Bhagavan gives a linear description. From Mauna arises the ego principle. From the ego principle arises the speech. And from the speech comes out our interaction. Now, these indications are that the layers are much more than these four. But Maunam is that powerful that it can coagulate all existences and bring the those who are in that Sannidhi to quietness, to stilling of the ego automatically. So that is Maunam Vyakya. Maunam Vyakya is not mere Vak Mauna. Maunam Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. What is revealed? Prakatita is revealed. Parabrahma Tattvam, the truth behind the Supreme Being, is revealed by the Mauna. Mauna Vyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. In fact, it can be appropriately revealed only by Mauna, because the Parabrahman is beyond the division of the experiencer, experience, and the act of experiencing, or the seer, seeing, seen, speaker, speech, and what is spoken. These triads are collapsed in the Parabrahma Tattvam. That's why Bhagavan himself says, Ekam Aksharam Hridi Nirantaram Bhasate Swayam Likyate Katham. It is without break, it is shining as Aham Aham, and it has gone beyond the dyads and triads. How to express it? The expression being in the limited dimension of triads. How can this limited dimension ever express that Parabrahma Tattvam? Therefore, Dakshinamurthy Swamigal expresses the Parabrahma Tattvam through Maunam. Of course, this is the description of Dakshinamurthy, who he is, to whom we have surrendered. Dakshinamurtim Ide. We bring the invocation of Dakshinamurthi, and the description of who is Dakshinamurthi is the rest of the verse. Maunavyakya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam. The Guru is a Yuva. Varsishtante Vasat Rishiganer Avrutam Brahmanishtai. The Sanakadis being the Manasa Putras, having come out of the mind of Brahma, they are already great tapasvis. They have inquired into the whole act of creation and creativity, and in one go said, that they are not interested in that part, that they are only interested in finding out what is this I, where to place the I. The idam has been completely worked out, but they want knowledge of what is the truth behind the self. So they are great tapasvis who are Brahmanishtais. They have done enough tapas that their focus is completely on the tapas of finding out what is the Brahma Tattva. And that is being revealed through the Mauna of the Guru. Varsishtante vasat rishiganer avrutam. Varsishtante, Varsishtaha means they are mature, already mature, indicating that those who are starting the meditation on the Dakshinamurthy Stotram should understand why the Stotram does not go into the koshas or the rejecting of the koshas, because it is already considered that the one who is meditating on Dakshinamurthy Stotram has worked out the relationship between the koshas and the world, and that such a one is more interested in finding out the principle behind the aham, behind the I. Varsishtante vasad rishiganer avrutam brahmanishtai acharyendram. Now, to work out one's own knowledge is one thing, but to be able to bring it about in others is a totally different power. And that Acharyendra, that is this Dakshinamurthy Swami, is the Guru. He is having that Shakti to give the Diksha, to give the Anubhava of Brahma Tattvam by quietening the ego. We used to have one of the Sishyas of Bhagavan, Kunju Swami. He narrates one incident when they are all in Skandashram, I think, and the Bhiksha that is being received would be distributed among the inmates. And at one point, he says that the Bhiksha was not sufficient for the number of people, and he felt he has already started the deep abidance in the self by himself. The ego was not raising at all, and it was quiet all the time. So, out of consideration for the others, he thinks if one member is less, that much food will be available for others. So now that I have gained the Brahmanishta, the Atma Jnana from my Guru, let me go back to Kerala and practice the abiding in the self there. And he leaves. As soon as he goes to his hometown, his mind goes back to its old activities. Everything goes helter-skelter. Of course, it might not have been of the same intensity as before, but then he understands that the abidance is lost, and he comes back to the ashram and asks Bhagavan. He narrates to Bhagavan this whole episode and says, what is this? That I was thinking that I am abiding in the self. Why is it that I lost it? And Bhagavan says, your abiding was made possible because of the Guru Sannidhi. Because of the powerful Mauna of the Guru, you were also able to abide. But you will get it on your own when you continue to do the sadhana in this Sannidhi. But it is not yet there. You have mistaken the abidance through the power of the Guru as your own. But you will get there. And they all get there. If Bhagavan is an Everest, it is said there were many Kanchanjangas around him. Many great ones, great self-realized ones. But this episode shows the power of the Mauna of the Guru and how he, as the teacher, Acharya, he is able to bless that mauna on to the students. Acharyendra Karakalitam. In his hands, there is this mudra, Chin Mudra. Karakalitam, Chin Mudram. This Chin Mudra is also called as Jnana Mudra or Mauna Mudra. Some of the commentators feel that this is the Mauna Vyakya. But then, as I said, the blessings of Bhagavan indicates to us very clearly that Maunam is the Parama Shakti. And Chin Mudram is of course an indication, a reminder which we all need to get back to sadhana. The Chin Mudra is a simple mudra which uses the 5 fingers, with the thumb being the Parabrahma Tattva and the 4 finger or the pointer being the ego or the individual principle. What normally happens where Ajnana is there, this individual principle or ego loses contact with the thumb and is associated with these 3 fingers. These 3 fingers are the 3 shariras, the Stula, the Sukshma and the Karana Sharira. Any one of the shariras you are associated with, you cannot join with the Parabrahma. So the Chin Mudra indicates symbolically Atma Vicharam, that the Atma, the Jiva, should free itself from the Stula, Sukshma and Karana Shariras and fix itself with the Parabrahma, with the Atma Tattva, with the Maunam, with the still I. That is the Chin Mudram. Swatma Ramam, one who is happy in himself, who is Dakshinamurthy, who has found the truth of happiness within. Anyone who is not happy with himself will always be looking for happiness in the wrong place, outside, and will have that discontent. Now, this indication of happiness within is available across many cultures. That when we say each individual is worthy of respect because there is God within each individual. Never treat any individual as a means to an end. Always treat them as ends in themselves. From where do these teachings emanate? They emanate from the understanding that the fullness or that dimension which is beyond all dimensions is present within each one. It has this limitation. The Supreme Being, the real Ananda, has this limitation that it has to be present within each limited being. Whatever the limited being may be, the limitless has to permeate and transcend the limited being. So, to find the transcendent Supreme Being, one necessarily has to find the immanent Supreme Being, the one who is within. Swatma Rama. So, Dakshinamurthy is one who has found that fullness, the immanent Supreme Being, and therefore the oneness of the immanent and transcendent is realized by Dakshinamurthy Swami. Therefore, he is happy within himself. Swatma Ramam Mudita Vadana. There is a small, light indication of smile in the face, or the face is relaxed and no tensions, and always a gentle smile is there in the face of the Guru. Dakshinamurthy Mudita Vadanam Dakshinamurti Ide. To such a one who is in that Mauna Sthiti, and through the Mauna Sthiti he removes all our doubts. And Bhagavan would always say the best benefit you can derive from Ramanacentre, from being in such a Guru's presence, is to attempt to be silent. To the best of the Jiva's ability, when we attempt to be silent, to be inward turned, that itself will enable us to be best attuned to the Mauna of the Guru. That is the Dhyana Shloka that we find along with the work. And there is a Dhyana Shloka or a Mangala Shloka by Bhagwan. This doesn't have the Sanskrit version. This is the Tamil Shlokam given by Bhagwan. So let us take a look at that quickly, because most of the content would have already been covered by the shloka attached to the 10 verses. But then there will be a special touch of Bhagwan which we will try to pay attention to. Bhagwan's shloka goes like this. Mannum ma munivar, mannum ma munivara shanti mannave, தென்முக மூர்த்தியாய் திகழ்ந்து மோனமா தன்னிலை திகழ்த்தி இத்துதிய தன்மயம் சொன்னவச் சங்கரன் துன்னும் என்னுளே. The Dakshinamurti Ide is here replaced by the one who has written the work, and the deity being worshipped. Both are present in Bhagwan who is writing. Both are present in each of the listeners, and both are present in me too as the Atma Swarupa, as the Atma Tattva. Both Dakshinamurti as well as Acharya Shankara are present in each one of us, says Bhagwan. And he is indicating that the same Shankara, the same Dakshinamurti is present within him when he is translating the Sanskrit into Tamil, indicating that both Dakshinamurti Swami and Adi Shankara are present as the Mauna Tattva, are present as the stillness of the self within the listeners as well as the one who is trying to communicate. Is the indication in this verse. Mannuma Munivara, this is covered in the earlier verse, that Vasishtante Vasad Rishi Ganair Shanti Mannave, for them to come to peace. Tenmuha Murtiyai Tigarndu Monama. Tenmuha Murtiyai Dakshinamurti we have seen. Maunama Murayar Katu we have seen. But that Maunam is Tannilai. Tannilai will once again be used by Bhagwan in the end. Tannilai is everything is the self. The I. That is Tanmaya Nishtai. Tannilai. Only the self is there. All the self have been uprooted into non-existence. What really exists is only the self. That is Tannilai Tigalti Tudiyil Tanmayam. What is it that the Dakshinamurti Swami is indicating in his Mauna and Adi Shankara is indicating in this shloka, in this Stuti, is Tanmaya Nishtai. Tanmaya Nishtai means that the self alone is there. In self-enquiry, whenever we get the non-self as thought, one lets it go by asking for whom is this thought. And that self which we had forgotten is held by the Dhyana Shakti, by the Bhava Bhala, the thought strength which would have been used to follow the thought is now reversed in direction and fixed in the self. One can easily understand that this will lead us to the Tanmaya Nishtai, where the self alone is, because whenever the non-self is appearing with the basic understanding that the self is the reality and the non-self is unreal, one keeps on holding the self. Where else can it end except in the ever-present self? Because that self is present before the sadhana, during the sadhana, and after the end of the sadhana. Therefore, Tanmaya Nishtai, that the self alone is what is being revealed, is the additional indication in Bhagavan's Dhyana Shloka, that Acharya and Dakshinamurthy Swamigal are revealing the gift of self alone is. And Sonnava Shankaran Tunnumennule, that Shankaran, that Adi Shankara, and naturally the Dakshinamurthy Swami, both are abiding inside me as the self of all. That is Bhagavan's Mangala Shloka. Both the Mangala Shlokas I have taken together, but given more importance to the Mangala Shloka that comes with the verses. If you have any suggestions or doubts to be posted regarding the various other Dhyana Shlokas, you can put it up in the group. But I think this much will do regarding the Mangala Shlokas. We can go into the work proper. The work proper contains 10 verses, and we can begin with the first verse today. We'll read the Sanskrit version of the first verse. The Sanskrit version is Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahirivodbhutam Yata Nidraya Yas Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanam Evadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Sri Dakshinamurtaye. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantar Gatam Pashyan Atmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutam Yata Nidraya Yas Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanam Evadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Nama Idam Sri Dakshinamurtaye. And the Tamil translation is Ulah Kannadi Urner Urattanul Ajnanathal Veliyanil Tuyil Kanapol Vilangida Kandu Jnana Nilayuru Neram Tannai Uruvanai Yavan Ner Kanban Talayuru Guruvam Anda Dakshinamurti Potri Ulahu Kannadi Urner Urattanul Ajnanathal Veliyanil Tuyil Kanapol Vilangida Kandu Jnana Nilayirum Neram Tannai Uruvanai Yavan Ner Kanban Talayuru Guruvam Anda Dakshinamurti Potri. Let us see the last line for today, and that line need not be seen again. The last line will be repeated as any mantra should be, any japa should be, any meditation should be. It will be repeated. It is the surrender to the omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence of Sri Dakshinamurti. That is why this shloka we can start chanting wherever we are, in whatever position we are. If we have the blessing of finding the worthiness, the devotion towards this shlokam, it can be the shlokam that can be a prayer from a very simple devotee who is struggling to maintain his day-to-day work and day-to-day sustenance. From there on to one who has surrendered more and more and understands The only doer is Ishvara, the only knower is Ishvara, the only being is Ishvara. In this journey, one can start with bhakti towards Dakshinamurthy Swami, who is there as Guru Swarupam. So let us see that line. Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namayidam Sri Dakshinamurtaye. Sri Dakshinamurti is the Guru Swarupa, the form of the teacher. The self is the real teacher all along. In our journey, we would have been helped by many teachers. I still remember my teacher in my LKG days. I used to be sent to school in Kerala, and I still remember her protection, that the protecting feeling, that protected feeling I used to have when I am with Moli Miss. Her name also I remember because it used to be told by my mother later, but I can still remember that experience. That now, therefore, we would have had various gurus to whom we would all like to be thankful, to have gratefulness. But then when we come to Atmavicharam, in fact, one of my friends had put me through the meditation courses sometime in 1997. And in the relative journey, that was one of the great turning points, that he was the guru who put me through a meditation camp. But then when we come to Sri Dakshinamurthy Stotram and Atmavicharam, we understand that there is a true understanding of and gratefulness to all those lineage of gurus that we have had. But then who has been the guru for us all through, to make us recognize that this person is a guru at that particular time. Why did we not recognize them earlier? Because it was not so required in our journey. The same person would have said the same words at previous times, we wouldn't have picked it up. Now, who is it that gives us the light at right time, to have the right understanding, to take one as a relative mentor? We will come irrevocably to the understanding that the Atma Swarupa is the real guru. The Atma Swarupa is the real teacher. And into that teacher is where we find our final residence. That is the only reality. It is the real happiness. The Atma Swarupa is real happiness. It is real awakening. It is the real waking state. Then who else can be the real guru? The Atma Swarupa itself is the real guru. But then Ramana, who lived there in 50 years for us, he is that living form of that Atma Swarupa. That is so clear. And he says how he gets the lineage from Dakshinamurti. In the talks, Bhagavan says that Dakshinamurti is like the plantain, the banana plantain we call it here, that it leaves shoots. The way in which it reproduces for our outside vision is that it leaves shoots, so they can even chop off the main plant after it has given the enough yield. But then it would have left the shoots from where the new plants will come. The Mauna Guru, like Bhagavan, is Dakshinamurti Swarupam, because his source is Mauna, says Bhagavan. That the Guru is not a biological entity. He is not even a mental identity to give a source as this Rishi or that lineage. His origin is directly and firmly with the Maunam. Therefore, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi himself is the proof that there is Dakshinamurti Swamigal earlier, that such a guru he exists and comes into existence for the sake of the denizens here, for the sake of practitioners, and their lineage comes from the Mauna itself, from the Atma Swarupa. Because time and again, Bhagavan would say that the Atma is the Chinmayi, is the real mother, that the Atma is the real father, Atma is the real Guru. The form in front of you is not the form, he would say. And he would say that the real form of the Guru is within you. So, but then we can understand how the worship of Dakshinamurti is also equally efficacious. That it is a reality that one's form is the Ishvara Swarupa. That if one can have that devotion to the Dakshinamurti, as I have for Ramana Maharshi, one can understand that that brings all the grace, everything that one needs to come to the realization of the truth. The simple act of worship of Dakshinamurti, who is the omnipotent, the omniscient and omnipresent Ishvara, that is enough to bring all the benefits, and that is enough to bring the strength in sadhana. And that is what is indicated time and again in the last line, that Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye, O Gurumurti, Murti is form, you are the Guru Swarupa. If one can take wisdom and roll it into a human form, that is Dakshinamurti's form. That is Ramana Maharshi. When we have Ramana Maharshi's form, Ramana Maharshi's name, and we worship him, we are worshipping the omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent Ishvara, and we can feel the presence of Ramana. And I can surely empathize with one who is meditating on that as Dakshinamurti Swami. When I used to sit for Atma Vicharam, there would be times when I wouldn't have the strength to continue the practice. I had the opportunity to stay near Ramanashram for years, have a room there, and just be allowed the privilege of just do Atma Vicharam, just go out for a lunch, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and sit around and do Atma Vicharam. And there would be times when I wouldn't be able to pursue. I did not know it then, but then 3 times or 4 times, the Ramana Nama will come. I will just be able to tell Ramana, Ramana, Ramana. Again, the Atma Vicharam will start. The strength to do Atma Vicharam will automatically be there. So somebody taking up Atma Vicharam will be supported by the Ishvara. Ramana, who is abiding in the self, is Ramaneshvara. Dakshinamurti, who is abiding in the self, is Dakshinamurti Ishvara. He is the Ishvara Swarupa, who has come to us as Guru, who has come to us as the ultimate teacher. From here on, you don't need any other information from any dimension. In the dimension of seer seeing seen, knower knowing known, no further data apart from Tanmaya Nishtai is required. So all book learning, all learning through another finds an end when we come to such a work. And to such a one who is the manifestation of that Maunam, to him is our pranams, is our total subsidence, total surrender, is the last line. And we will not be meditating on the meaning of the last line again, because it will be repeated as it should be. All that we need is to remember that Dakshinamurti, Ramana is the origin of each of our thoughts, is the origin of each of our actions, is the Adhara for everything, and is the continuity after the end of everything. To such a one is our surrender, is the last line. With that, we stop today's meditation and we can go into practice of Atma Vicharam for the few minutes till 8 o'clock, when we can listen to Dr. Shardaka. Ujjwalji, can you set the time for us that we sit in Atma Vicharam? So, Namo Ramana.
Just give me a moment to set up my this. Just one. After Vicharam, and that time I can set it up.
Yeah.
To set up the iPad.
Yeah. So David ji, for your information, what we do at this time is we practice Atma Vicharam, which Bhagavan teaches in Who Am I, where in question number 9 and 10 and 11, he covers that when a thought arises, without trying to complete that thought, because it's only going to lead to more thoughts, he says, inquire for whom is this thought, and invariably the answer is very meditative and same, it will come for me. Then we hold the who am I. So we'll be practicing that for the next few minutes till 8 o'clock. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana. Let's listen to our president, Dakshardaka. Namo Ramanaka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining is the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self, manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the Dakshinamurthy Stotram, the translation of the Dakshinamurthy Stotram by Bhagavan. And we have been meditating on the Dhyana Shlokam. The Dhyana Shlokam is, as Nandakumar said, it is to facilitate dhyana, it is to facilitate meditation. And each of the, if we look at a parallel Dhyana Shloka, my mind goes to the Dhyana Shloka of the Ramana Ashtotram. And there, Vishwanatha Swami calls Bhagavan the Sukhavari Rashe. Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashe. He is that ocean, that limitless ocean of Satchit Ananda, of the self, which is also Sukha, which is also bliss. Here we have the Ananda Murtim. Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashe, Yasyor Mimatram Bhuvanam Samastam. This entire universe is only a speck in that, in him, who is the self. Guhahitam, he resides in the heart. And Nandakumar said, we have to turn to the self immanent. We have to find it within ourselves before we are able to understand that it is transcendent, that it is all inclusive and transcendent. Sadhu Swami, in his sweet song, which is called the Dhyana song, the song of meditation, says only after finding the truth within can we recognize that everything automatically, once we recognize it is within, then automatically everything is included. So, Guhahitam tam Ramanam Gaviram, and then he concludes, Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami. I meditate in my heart on one who is free from thoughts. So that is Ramana, that is Dakshinamurthy, who is the absolute epitome of silence, as we also again saw the story of Swarupananda and Tattvaraya. And of course, as Nandakumar said, several devotees, several seekers of truth who came to Bhagavan have found that their mind was automatically taken to the stillness in his presence. We have the famous instance of Paul Brunton as well. And he says that all the questions which he had written down just dissolved when he came into the presence of Bhagavan. So that is the silent Mauna Vyakhya. And in Ekan Panchakam, Bhagavan says, Adi Guru himself, when Dakshinamurthy himself has only spoken of it in silence or has only revealed it through silence, how else can it be revealed? Adi Guru seppadu seppit therivittadu. So he has revealed it without speaking. And Bhagavan also says of Arunachala, Sollada sollini sollara nillendru summa irundai Arunachala. Oh, Arunachala, you gave me the instruction, be silent, be without any, be wordless, be absolutely silent. But how did you instruct me thus? You instructed without speaking. Without speaking. Solladu sollini sollara nillendru summa irundai. So that is the silence, Mauna Vyakya, which we have been meditating on. And Nandakumarji, when he was speaking of the story of Tattvaraya and Swarupananda, he was saying, in those days, the conquest of elephants was considered to be the greatest of feats. So, in those days, what was considered to be a great feat is no longer a great feat. In those days, what could have been a best means of communication? There might have been initially, if you look at it historically, it looks like people were communicating through sign language, through wordplay, through pictures, then words came into being, all this. But there is one which is a timeless means of communication, and that is silence alone. Silence never becomes stale. Silence never becomes out of date. Silence never becomes something which cannot communicate. Words may fail to communicate, but silence always communicates. And this is the experience of every one of us who come to self-enquiry, that much, even on the day-to-day plane, by going into the self, by going into the silence, all communications happen automatically. They seem to happen. People would know what we want to say much better, in a much clearer manner, than if we try to explain it to them through words. So when that is the case, even in a day-to-day parlance, in a day-to-day activity, what to say of the truth which cannot be explained in words? So it is Mauna Vyakya Prakritha Parabrahma Tattvam Yuvanam, and he's speaking to mature people. Very often it is said that self-enquiry is for mature people. But I feel that here Bhagavan Ramana has made a deviation from Dakshinamurthy and allowed anyone and everyone to grasp this by saying, Ayye ati sulabham manma viddai, ayye ati sulabham. Some people still say self-enquiry is only for the right. Bhagavan has said it is only for the right. In some questions and answers in Ramana Gita, he has said it is for it. There is some amount of purity of mind which is required. But I feel as he goes on, when he's talking about Ayye Ati Sulabham, then he says, it is the simplest thing. There cannot be something simpler than this. It is more evident than the gooseberry in one's palm, he says in his Atma Vidya Kirtanam. So, the ripeness is something which we cannot gauge. And Bhagavan has said we must never judge anyone else and never judge ourselves either, because we are the first other to ourselves. And so there is no need to wonder whether we are ripe or not, because Sundaresh Iyer had that issue. If Kunduswami thought that he was ripe and left Bhagavan's presence only to return, Sundaresh Iyer thought, I am not ripe enough to enjoy the full fruits of what Bhagavan is giving. So let me first ripen and then come back to him. So he who used to go and see him every day from when he was 18, 19 years old, from the Virupaksha days, kept himself away from Bhagavan for 100 days. 100 days he kept himself away, thinking, I cannot benefit from Bhagavan's presence because I am not ripe enough. And then he could bear it no longer, and he ran up to Skandashramam. And at Skandashramam, when he went, Bhagavan was waiting at the gate, as it were. And he fell at his feet, and he says, he bathed his feet with his tears and said, I am sorry, Bhagavan. Bhagavan said, what happened, Sundaresha? Why didn't I see you for 100 days? It was such a long time. And he said, Bhagavan, I thought coming to you was of no use to me. Then Bhagavan said, what does it matter? Now you know the difference, right? And Sundaresha here says, I realized at that point of time that we did not go to Bhagavan for any kind of benefit, spiritual or other, but because he is our very life. That is, so whether the spiritual maturity is there or not. And again, Nandakumarji told us that when we start meditating on the Guru and on the Guru Murti, whether it is the form of Dakshinamurthy that is given to us, the form of Bhagavan sitting in absolute stillness, we can see that. In fact, there is an archival film where a clipping where we can see Bhagavan is seated, lots of people are there around him, and everyone is still, but Bhagavan is like a statue, absolutely like, you wonder whether it's a photograph or it's actually a film. And then you see the wafting of the incense sticks, the smoke is moving, only the smoke is moving. So that is how Bhagavan is like a rock. Muruganar Swami is said to have written that the hill felt a bit ashamed of its own stillness in comparison to this young boy who was seated either in Virupaksha cave or Skandashrama earlier in the Patalis. That is the kind of stillness of Bhagavan, the Achala, the Dakshinamurti that he is. Whether we meditate on that form or whether we meditate on the qualities like the Ananda Murti, the Ananda Murtim and the Mudita Vadanam, the Ananda that he is a very embodiment of bliss. And Bhagavan, in that Satchit Ananda of the self, Bhagavan gives us the inundation of the bliss aspect he emphasizes. Even if we look at, again coming back to the Atma Vidya Kirtanam, every stanza ends with the welling up of bliss. So Ananda Murtim he is. And that automatically reflects in the smile of Bhagavan. A smile which Osborne's daughter wrote to Osborne saying, you cannot see anything more beautiful than Bhagavan's smile. Anything more beautiful in this world than Bhagavan's smile. And why? Because that smile is it just is the mirror of the glory of the self, the beauty of the self, the wonder of the self. Marvelous indeed is His grace that it has brought us to the path of self-enquiry. Self is grace, says Bhagavan, and grace is in the beginning, middle and end. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana to all.